Welcome back to another gear show. Thank you for your patience. I'm Mike, and let's get on with AGS. Firstly, I want to start with an apology. I should have given you something in the past month and a half, 2 months, whatever it's been, but AGS is a side project for me, so there's a lot of competition for my time. I'm going to just briefly touch on why you guys haven't got a new episode yet, and then we'll move on. This is my third time recording this episode, and hopefully this time will be the one that gets up so you guys actually have something. The first time I recorded it, it was right before I went into an awards show. I had to work the BET Hip Hop Awards, and that basically dominated my life for about a week. So I had filmed it, I went to work the show, and then when I came back to edit it, I realized it was utter garbage. I was distracted, I was rambling, it was just pointless dribble. I'm like, I'm not going to do that to you guys. I should have given you something, but I didn't, so we're moving on. So after that, I recorded it a second time, and I think I realized when I went to edit it that time that I had just bitten off way more than I could chew in one episode. I was trying to cram everything into it. The episode was ending up looking like it was going to be close to half an hour long. I wasn't going to do that to you. Apart from the awards show, I've also had my side project, the project associated with Secret Squirrel Theater, and we'll circle back around to that at the end of the episode. That's been taking up a lot of my time, as well as a good friend of mine, one of my union brothers, is having a really rough time. Personally, his mom is ailing, and he's just got a lot going on. So Heather and I, instead of working on this stuff now that we're settled in here, I'll come back to that in a minute. We've been helping him out, especially since a couple weeks ago, another one of the distractions, I was able to go back down to Tampa and finally get all of my stuff out of storage. So I have everything here in one place, and we've kind of been going through it because we haven't had access to this stuff for almost 2 years. And it's like Christmas. It's like, oh, what's in this? Oh my God, I've been looking for that. So anyway, we're going to get on with it. This is AGS. I'm going to talk in this episode about some of the tools that I use to stay organized, specifically little bits of gear and little tips and tricks that I do to kind of help make things better. Now, one other thing, as you may have noticed, I've got a B camera. Hi, B camera. That's my wide shot because this camera was acting up. You probably noticed that this is not my normal shooting angle. That's because my normal lens went Tango uniform on me, and it's out for repair right now. So I'm just using a bog standard manual lens. I borrowed the video camera. It's a little Canon camcorder thing I'm borrowing from a friend of mine. I thought I was gonna have to record with that, but I'm able to do this, so I'm just using that as a B camera right now. Yay! So okay, let's get into it. Technology-wise, there's a couple of things you can do. There are, let me start on a grand scale. As many of you know, I work in the entertainment industry. I work TV shows. I work a lot of rock and roll kind of stuff. I work a lot of theater stuff. And it gets hectic because I'll get picked up for a show weeks out. I knew 3-4 weeks in advance I was going to be on the BET Awards show. Threw that in my calendar. I have a paper calendar because nothing beats analog, nothing beats something you can physically hold in your hand, and write shit down and have it as a quick reference. But I've really adopted using Google. I know they farm your info, but what are they going to get? My fucking appointments. I can put my gigs in my Google Calendar. Heather has it linked to hers, so she knows when I'm working. And it's just become habit to say, oh, okay, I've got a gig. Let me put that in the calendar right now. You tell Google to add an appointment, or you put it in manually. You're going to find that a lot of organization comes down to what is essentially muscle memory. Integrating Google, making sure that I get alerts from certain emails. That's like broad digital kind of stuff. In the analog world, It's a little different because I need certain tools for certain jobs. Rock and roll shows I don't need as much as I do for theater shows, where I don't need as much as I do for TV shows. So to that end, what I do is I kind of break down. I go, these are my core tools. These are my, these are my theater tools. These are my TV tools. And what I can do is basically just pick them up as needed and go. And that's kind of broad scale stuff. If you go back to my episodes from season 1, where I'm talking about what I used on the Super Bowl, you'll get an idea of that kind of system that I use. On a smaller scale, organization on a macro level, it comes down to, again, that kind of muscle memory where you've got to teach yourself, okay, at the end of every week, I'm going to go to my desk and gather up all my memory cards and put them back in the case. Or I'm going to go through, and if I used anything out of my boo-boo kit, I'm going to top that off. Or, if I loaned somebody a cable, okay, so here's something that I've started doing because I find myself forgetting when I loan shit out. If I loan you a cable out of my cable pouch, I write myself a little note. Loaned whatever type of cable to whomever on whatever day. And speaking of cable pouches, the cable pouch that I recommend, and I bought this with my own money, it is the Goruck wire Dopp. I like this thing because it lays flat. Oop, I am checking my reference monitor. It lays flat, it opens up pretty big. It's got space for big cables. It's got space for little shit. And as you're well aware, it's got to have room for a patch. So what I do is I have charging and sync cables, link-up cables, the bigger cables, anything really over 3 feet goes in this pocket. Adapters, jumpers, things like that will go in here. And then over here, I keep usually little USB fan outs, little USB hubs. And even when it's full of stuff, it lays pretty flat. So it's easy to slip into a bag and it can just go. But getting back to it, as I said, if I loan you a cable, I'm going to write myself a little note in here that says, I loan so-and-so a male headphone to female headphone extension on this day. It doesn't have to be anything major, just so when you go through, you're like, oh, where's this cable? Oh, somebody's got it right now. I actually just ran into that. When I was cleaning up my memory cards. I have this bad habit of putting my memory cards just on the top layer of my desk, and I won't think about it. And at the end of the week, I'll gather them all up. I had a friend of mine, her computer went Tango uniform on her, and she's like, I need to get my data off, blah, blah, blah. So I got the data off. I dumped it all to a 64 gig card. And so here's your data. Get that back whenever, no big deal. I've got an archive of your data. If something goes wrong, no problem. But when I went to put my memory cards away, it was like, okay, 16, 32, 64. I'm missing a 64. Where's the 64? Where's this? I was literally for 2 or 3 minutes just like tearing my desk apart. I'm missing. I checked in my camera. I checked in I'm like, where the hell did it go? And then I remembered I loaned it to her because I didn't say, hey, let me make a note of this somewhere, somehow. Organization, it's all about keeping track of shit. It's all about making that muscle memory. So when you do loan something out, okay, this person has this item. And you're not writing an IOU. It's just, if it's something you're going to write off, don't worry about it. But if it's something that there's an expectation of a return, note it down. For your sake. That's why I carry a notebook. It's not so I can remember it later. It's so I don't forget shit now. Because I'll get distracted. I won't get an episode out for 2 months, and the next thing you know, I'm missing a bunch of shit. Neither here nor there. So the next thing. Pouches. There's a fine line when it comes to pouches. You either have pouches for everything and accept the weight trade-off. Okay, I've got a boo-boo kit, and this weighs probably, if I had to make a guess, I'd say about 3 or 4 ounces. It's not heavy, but it's excessive. So what this is basically my resupply bag. I will leave this in a big bag, either in a car or in a crew room, or just hanging up somewhere where I can grab it. I'll restock out of this. I'll say, okay, I used 3 Band-Aids and a gauze pad. Boop. I'll pull it out of this, restock my stuff. keeping organized, knowing that at some point, usually about 3 to 4 times a year, I'll go through this and go, okay, what's expired but still viable, what has no expiration date, what needs to be replenished. This right here is, it's a little bit of self-discipline organization. You've got to say, I'm going to do this on such and such date. What I have done on a couple of these, and if I can find one that's active, I'll show you, is I'll put a piece of white gaff tape on this, and I can use that to write notes on it. I use gaff tape because it does peel off. It doesn't leave a residue unless it gets like super hot or nasty. But then you can just say, okay, just a white piece of gaff tape, you can grab a pen and go, I used, a gauze pad and a fucking blood clot for, on this date. So I can look at it and go, I need to replenish that sooner than my normal restock date. You've got to find these patterns. You've got to find these steps. You've got to find the muscle memory or the pattern, I guess. So when you go through and say, okay, I need to replenish this, or okay, I loaned out my last little USB jumper, I need another one. You kind of know what you got going on. Why am I so hypercritical about how I keep my shit organized? Why am I so hyper attentive? I have a horrible, horrible habit of losing things. And to that end, I will sit there and be like, where the fuck is it? And it could be right in front of me, or it could have accidentally been thrown away, or whatever. I want to minimize how much stress I'm putting on myself, because if I can focus on something, if I can just knock something out without having to fish for equipment or knowledge or whatever, great, perfect. That's going to make me more efficient. That's going to make me better at whatever I'm doing because I'm not sweating the details. So one more thing I want to show you. This is something new that's in my arsenal. I've had it for a couple months and I'm really still trying to figure out how to integrate it because it's good at some things, but it's not quite there. This is the ITS Foldanizer, and it is basically a hang rig. So what you see is one of the ITS pouches, much like the medical pouch. It just Velcros in here. Flat pouch right in here. I've got my passport, my Vax cards and shit. And then just up here for filler, I've got blister kit. Bug out hygiene kit, which probably needs to be refreshed. Some, what are these? Oh yeah, Duke Cannon cold shower. These are not horrible. They're a little pricey. They're, $2 or $3 a piece, but you don't need a ton of them. One of these is good enough to at least get you socially acceptable again. So like if you've had a long day outside, yeah, you can kind of just freshen up and not smell like a wet yak. As I said, I'm still trying to really find a place in my structure of organization for this. For the most part, it's just a place where I put loose things. When I was doing BET, I had photo credentials that I needed to carry, so this was hanging on a door. So I just tuck it in there. I knew exactly where it was, and I think that's kind of how this is going to live. This is mostly going to be just a hanging organizer. I'm also going to show you real quick some B-roll of a Molly hanging organizer. It's basically a backpack insert panel that I put some dowels in the back, tied a piece of string to, and now it supports just random shit. When I'm not working, it is to hold my basic tools. I can put them in there. If I have to do any maintenance to them, cleaning, oiling, sharpening, what have you, it's all right there. Also in that B-roll, you'll see I've got a homemade lanyard out of some 550 cord that I just clip shit onto so I can keep it organized. I'm going to do a wide B-roll. That way you can see like my bookshelf, my little parts bins. You can see that, even in my closet, I've got a thing, not wood, plastic bookshelf kind of thing that I keep Up on top are the bags that I don't use that often, but are big and durable. And then I've got bags that I use more often that are usually lighter. EDC bags go in there when they're stripped down or when they need to be cleaned. Random miscellaneous shit. The idea of organization, the idea of minimizing how much effort it takes to do something. If I can knock something out in 4 hours instead of 4.5, because I didn't have to spend time looking for something, all the better. That extra half hour, get yourself something to eat. Maybe you're going to take that time, you're just not going to work as fast. You know, maybe you're on a time constraint, and if you know where everything is, you can focus on the task and do it better. And when you produce better, people notice that. When you, what's the word I'm looking for? When you declutter your mind, when you declutter your workspace, you work more efficiently. That's why I have the vest the way I have. That's why I have a drop leg rig for when I'm doing rock and roll shows. Everything is right where I can get to it. Lean, efficient movements. It's the same thing in the shooting world, where slow is smooth and smooth is fast. It's the same thing in the athletic world. It's the same thing where you're trying to go for efficiency of motion. So that's it. I mean, the idea of trying to make yourself better by improving your workspace, that should be one of the big things you start working on, because that's something you can work on a couple of minutes at a time every day. Tidy up your books, tidy up your bits bins, you know, make sure you have a dedicated place for overflow stuff, you know, get into these habits where you're not excessively thinking about where is. It's a better and more efficient use of your time. It's going to make you feel better, because if you can just knock something out, you're going to get a better sense of accomplishment. At least I do. So yeah, to that end, get organized, get yourself squared away, and just try to be better at everyday life, because that's going to make you better overall. And that's what this is all about. Utilizing tools and practices to make you better at everything. So there's that. Okay, so that lecture over. I know this episode is running long, so I'm going to terminate it there. I got one more I've got to do for Secret Squirrel Theater, and then I'll make the announcement probably next episode. Next episode is going to be a little different. I'm going to stray away from organizational stuff, because I've got a location where I can have some fun. And I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but smoke grenades. We're going to play with smoke grenades. It's going to be fun. Fun for the whole family, that kind of thing. So until next time, which hopefully won't be nearly as long, I'm Mike. This is AGS. And as it's YouTube, you know, the like, share, comment, subscribe. I've been getting comments from a few people asking me questions and whatnot. And I've got one fan in Indiana who actually messaged me. It was like, when's the next episode? I'm like, okay, I fucked up. Yes, here's your next episode. I'm sorry. Please enjoy. And until next time, just try to be better than you were yesterday. And that's how we do an episode. It's not much, and I'm not wearing any pants.